Hello and welcome everybody to DoForms webinar today on contactless signature capture. My name is John Darienzo. I am actually the CEO of DoForms, and with me today I have Anthony Trani on keyboards. Anthony will be doing the demonstrations and talking a little bit on how to actually build a contactless signature form. Just so you know, if you are just joining about DoForms for the first time and you want to follow on and do what we're doing, you can get a free trial account by simply going to our website and signing up for a free 30-day trial, which will give you total access to the system, and you'll be able to build your own contactless signature form and try it out. In this webinar, we're going to be discussing DoForms' ability today to really be COVID compliant. So what we discovered from our customers was that it's inappropriate to have a customer walk up to within a few inches of a technician, let's say, or a healthcare provider to sign their phone or tablet, or worse yet, hand them a piece of paper where the disease could be transferred in that media. So what we did is we utilized DoForms' extensive automated workflow platform to build out a method that allows a technician or caregiver to basically acquire a signature or get payment from somebody, credit card payment from somebody, without them having to be within close proximity to each other, so 6 feet away, at a minimum. Now, the problem with a lot of our competition in this particular example is that most form companies, after the form is filled out and submitted, it's only a PDF after that or data. So it's not possible to take the form and move it from person to person to person. But with the DoForms product, you basically have the ability to not only forward a form to somebody, but you have the ability to, one, completely control what that person sees and how they respond with the form. We'll show you an example of that. And you also have the ability to have that form open up correctly on pretty much any size device or desktop or laptop or phone or tablet, where DoForms will render itself appropriately on that platform, so you don't have to worry about when you're forwarding that form to somebody for them to sign and pay. You don't have to worry that they're going to have problems opening it up on whatever device they're opening it up on. What we're going to do now is we're going to show you an example of a technician form, an HVAC form that we had built, and we took this form and quickly modified it to make it a contactless signature form. So I'm going to bring on Anthony now, and if you look at Anthony's screen, you'll see an HVAC service order, and this order can be either dispatched, and when it's being dispatched, you can dispatch the email address as an example of the customer, or we could show you how to also ask for a customer's email address when you're standing there with them. But in this particular example, I believe it's set up as a dispatch. So Anthony's going to go ahead and pick a customer, and it'll populate with different information for that customer, and one of the fields will be actually Anthony's email address. So what you're going to see today is how Anthony's form right now is limited to only those things that he needs to do. So he's going to go through, process his work order. We're going to jump down, Anthony, to the part where we're done, and we're ready for the signature. So the customer, went through, or the technician went through, and they filled out information, they picked products, they've set up the fee, they have their total fee. And normally in this case, we would have a signature box where somebody would walk up and accept the pricing and, sign it and pay by credit card. The technician would swipe their credit card on a swipe. But in this particular case, we took that all away for now, and we just have a button that says send to customer. So Anthony is going to hit the send to customer button, which is going to send basically an email to the customer. They're going to get an email that Anthony will open up shortly. It's actually going to open, he's sending it to himself. So you're going to see the email open up on Anthony's desktop. So there he goes. He got the email, and it says you have a form you need to sign, and you click on the link. And when they click on the link, what you'll see is a button that did not appear on the technician's form that tells the person immediately, click here to pay and sign. So the first thing they see when they get the form is a button that says pay and sign. And nobody will see that except the person that this form was forwarded to. So Anthony will go ahead and click on that. and it brings him down to that area. You see it's a, accept the charges. As soon as they do, it gives them the ability to pay now. This is a browser-based payment, so there's no credit card swipe necessary. So whether they're using their phone, tablet, or a desktop, it will bring up the payment window. They can go ahead and put in their information. Now, Anthony didn't actually do the transaction because that would have required a credit card, but he just emulated what it would look like. And then the person goes ahead and they sign. If you notice, there's no button under signature right now. It's just a sign. And you're going to notice now all of a sudden it automatically stamped the date for him, and a button appeared that says return to tech. Now, the reason we hide the button is we don't want the person sending this job back without signing it. So they have to sign and they have to pay by credit card before the button that allows them to return it even appears. Just so you know, all of these buttons won't appear on PDFs or any documentation that's sent. They're only on the mobile forms or the desktop forms. So Anthony, go ahead and click the return to tech. Okay. And now Anthony will be able to go back to his terminal. So he's going to bring up his mobile device now. It'll pop up on the screen. And you'll see that he has a job. So it's updating a new job to his device. And he'll go in and he'll click on that job and he'll see that he has a job. He got the job back. He reloads that form for the person. That person sent. If he goes to the last page now, he'll see that the signature is there and the payment was made. So literally within a few minutes of work, we turn the standard HVAC work order form into a contactless signature and payment form. That can be done from 6 to 100 feet away. It doesn't really matter at this point. Very easy, very seamless. It managed the customer's ability to know exactly where they had to go in the form. We could make it more robust. We could hide everything if we want to. Every field in the DoForms form has rules and permissions. So we literally could hide any field we didn't want them to see. And one of the things that we also did on that form is we made everything that the technician filled out read-only for the forward to person. So while the technician had the ability to edit all those fields and put in products and different information, when this form was forwarded to the customer, all of those fields were suddenly read-only because of the rules set up for that forward to person. So all they had was the ability to pay by credit card and sign, and they were actually required to do those things and didn't even get the button until basically they did the signature and paid. So with this method, we've identified a number of different situations in both field service and healthcare. When I was explaining this example to somebody, their immediate comment was, you know what, I had a plumber come today because there was an emergency in my house, and they immediately handed me a piece of paper to sign. And the first thing that came to mind was, is this really COVID friendly? This person just handed me a piece of paper. If either one of us had it, we just made the other person sick. So there's a number of use cases where this contactless signature and payment can apply. So Anthony, if you go into the form builder, just go and show them there's two options for the forward. There's a forward and a secure forward. The secure forward is something that you would use in a healthcare situation where you want to guarantee the integrity of the data being transmitted. So what secure forward does is instead of giving them access to the form immediately, it also sends them a code that they have to put in order to access that link that they're given. You don't necessarily have to do that if you are right in front of the person. It is something you're going to want to do if you're trying to get a signature from somebody, distant from them. Or one example where we use secure forward is in the Visiting Nurse Association for do not resuscitate forms. There's been a lot of those being filled out in the last couple of months, unfortunately. But in order for those to be legal, the doctor has to sign it. So we have a system that takes the DNR form at the patient's bedside, fills it all out. They hit a button, it goes directly to the doctor's email. The doctor puts the code in that's emailed to them. They get a secure access to the form. They sign it. It goes right back to the healthcare provider in the room. That healthcare provider prints it out on a Brother PocketJet mobile printer, and leaves a copy for the patient and the family members. So secure forwarding is the HIPAA compliant mechanism that allows you to do sort of a disconnected signature capture. And the regular forward, if Anthony goes to that forward, you'll see that when you put the forward in, you have a couple of options. One option is you can either hard code the email address in there, or you can pick an email address from another field in your form. So in the beginning of this form, Anthony had an email address. When he picked the customer, the email address populated. He's pointing this forward to that email address so that he doesn't have to type it in again. Or you can set it up so that you ask the person for their email address, type it in, and then it'll perform the forward. A couple of other features of the forward that make this work is you can suppress PDFs being sent to the customer. So let's say the transaction was the technician fills it out, forwards it to the person signs it, sends it back to the technician finishes, and then it gets uploaded to the cloud, and then a PDF is sent. Well, when the technician first submits the form, forwards the form, we give you the ability to suppress the PDF so that the customer doesn't get a receipt of the transaction by virtue of the technician sending it to them. They only get the receipt after they've signed it, the technician gets it back, and it's put back up into the cloud. We also have a return to sender function. By clicking that, it automatically returns that document right back to the person who sent it to them. So the forward makes it very easy, excuse me, to do that. Anthony, jump up all the way in the beginning to that sign and pay button that you put in.
Yep. One other thing on the forward, John, is especially when you're forwarding to customers, you have full control over the email subject and body. You can include fields from your form. So if you wanted to say hello, customer name, please click the link below. You could do things like that with this custom email subject and custom email body.
Very good. Thank you, Anthony. I forgot that.
Yep.
The other thing I wanted to show you is if you go to that button that says pay and sign, that button only is set up to appear for the forward to recipient. So basically that button is hidden for everybody else. So when that page is seen by the technician or seen by somebody in accounting, they won't see a button that says pay and send. Only the customer will see that button. So that allows us to put very specific messages for the customer. We can put very specific navigation tools in for the customer to navigate around the form. We can hide things for that customer, make things required, make things read only. So it gives us a lot of capability on every field in the form to really give the customer, when they get this, a very specific view. Like if there's a lot of detail in the form, we could hide all of that detail and only give the customer access maybe to the last page that has the price and the place to sign. So it's very easy within DoForms to control all of that. And it's very important, even in a non-contactless signature capture mechanism, let's say that you were forwarding a form to somebody to sign and pay, you would never want them to have the ability to edit or change the amount to be paid, because they would change 2,000 to 200, pay it, you'd get it back and think they paid it, and then you'd find out later that you got beat by $1,800. So if you're going to have automated workflow in a solution, it's very important that, one, your form could render on any device because you don't have to know who you're sending it to and how they're going to open it. And two, it's very important to have those rules and permissions, because otherwise people will make mistakes. They may get lost navigating. If anybody ever tried to sign a DocuSign on a small device, it's very hard to find where that signature DocuSign is. You have to navigate through everything, stretch and shrink the form, where we're able to immediately put that button right on top and take that customer right to the signature section. And we could even auto run that button. So instead of them even seeing the button, when that form opens, we could open that form right in the signature section. So we have total control over what they see. The other thing, we wanted to discuss a little bit, and we're going to open this up for questions in a moment. But, we've done a number of things now for this COVID pandemic response, from putting out surveys and questionnaires to people to be able to determine the health of their staff. So for the Visiting Nurse Association, we have a document that we prepared that allows 1,000 nurses every morning to fill it out, and it asks them if they've been in contact with COVID patients, if they're having any symptoms, and they use the response to that is automatically being calibrated to determine or analyze to determine, what technicians or what healthcare technicians they need to identify as maybe pulling out of the field, or, maybe bringing them in for a test. So, the one thing that we just did a press release on that, the one response that the customer had was that we were able to do it in less than a day. In less than a day, we were able to bring up this survey for them and get it into production, and they were able to start making sure they manage the health of their field technicians, their healthcare technicians. There's a number of different things we've been working on with people, from everything from ordering, food and being able to pick it up at restaurants. Other things may be in terms of somebody being able to register to go get a test within one of these testing facilities, and being able to count how many people register, and then based on that, close certain time windows, so that as time windows fill up, it only offers people the next available time window or time windows. We're also putting a barcode into the form, so that when people get there, they could present the email they got back that has a barcode in it, and then the field tech doing the test can scan their barcode and have full information on who that person is. So it's a QR code. So between the automated workflow and the ability to do things like print barcodes and scan barcodes, we're able to facilitate an entire transaction set for, let's say, a testing facility under COVID, to manage time slots, time windows, to eliminate the need for people, all getting there at once. If you ever gone to Disney World in the old days, you sat online for 400 hours. Now you get a time spot where you go to that ride, and you basically now have a much shorter line. So this is very akin to that. We can do things like that very easily in DoForms and manage those work queues. Anthony, I'll open this up to any questions. If you have a question, just type it into the chat.
Yeah, I have one or two here for you, John. Just before we get to the questions, one other thing that I want to point out to everybody is that this forward capability can be used internally as well. If your customers have a scenario where maybe managers need to sign off on something, and in the past, they were physically getting handed a piece of paper, we can forward this information within your DoForms account from one user to another user as well. So it doesn't necessarily specifically need to be to customers outside of your organization. If you have internal processes that need to collect signatures or approvals or things like that, you can use these features for that scenario as well.
That's true. So if your organization has DoForms licenses, you can actually forward a form to another licensed user, or you can forward a form to an unlicensed user using their email address.
Correct. So, John, we had a question.
Go ahead.
Yep. So originally, Robert asked if this webinar will be available for all attendees. So I answered him directly, but just so everybody knows, this webinar is being recorded and will be posted in our video library on our DoForms website for anybody who wants to come back and reference it again. And then we have a question from Arles. Arles asks, I have a question. Additional to this field, is there another field that I can use to confirm that this person or customer is signing? So I'm assuming, Arles, what you mean there is like a print name kind of field next to it, where they actually have to physically type in their name so you know whose signature is whose. And then he follows up with a question, is there a way in which a customer does not agree, he can return the document without signing, or a new form has to be generated? No. So if, for example, I had chosen no, we could configure the form to basically send it back without a signature and notify the technician that it was rejected. We can add any type of fields in there as well. Like maybe you want a reject reason where the customer can type in, this product is too expensive, I don't want to pay for it. Something like that. We can basically custom build any kind of set of questions for a rejection and basically notify the technician that it's been rejected, when it was rejected, who it was rejected by, and why they reject it. Does that answer your question, Arles? Okay.
And as far as knowing if
the
customer is signing
it,
John. As far as knowing if the customer is signing it or not, we have, if you go into the portal, if somebody goes into the portal, when that customer gets that form and they open it, it actually will send an open message dynamically back to the portal. So one of the things that you get with DoForms, if you start using the email form and the form forwarding and things of that nature, is as the form gets opened, it sends statuses dynamically to let the portal know that somebody's opened that form. So as an example, let's say we have a process in DoForms called fill and send. You could basically, let's say you created a form that was a proposal, you could open up that proposal in Fill and Send, pre-fill it out, email it to your customer. And unlike, when you email a PDF, if you email a PDF, the best you can do is say delivery notification and read. Well, the negative on those two things is basically the delivery could be it went to their junk mail and you would never know that. And the customer can decide to say, no, I don't want to let them know that I read it. But if you email them a proposal that you did in Fill and Send and DoForms, as soon as they get the link and they click on it, the server gets a notification back that they've opened that form. So now you know that they're in the form. The other thing that makes this better than sort of an email and a PDF is when that form gets submitted back, when that customer goes into the form and they sign the proposal and they hit send, and that comes back to DoForms, that could trigger a bunch of things. So a receipt could be emailed automatically to the customer. Emails can go to the warehouse to say, please fulfill this order. We could update Salesforce.com immediately to say that this order is closed, the deal is won. So any number of things can be triggered automatically upon receiving back this information. The same thing with the contactless signature. As soon as that customer signs and that email goes back, let's say that technician used 4 filters and 6 other parts, an email can go right to the warehouse to say, hey, when my van comes back tonight, please refill my van with these filters and parts so that I'm fully stocked again for the next day. So, when you're using these processes and DoForms, it's not so much even the fact that you can send it, it's the fact that there's all this automation on the back end that can trigger a bunch of things. There's also a complete reporting engine. So, as your technician is going through and generating revenue for the day or doing, anything, you have a full reporting engine that can automatically send emails to people, letting them know that, these 100 jobs were done today or these 1,000 people were tested today. So the reports are dynamic and they consolidate all your collected data and they're emailable. We also have the ability to create dashboards now. So let's say you were doing the testing in COVID and every time somebody walked in, you asked if they had symptoms or didn't have symptoms. Well, we could have a dashboard running in the back to say basically, this person had symptoms or didn't have symptoms, and we could increment that. So we could say 1,000 people today showed up, 50 of them had symptoms and 950 of them didn't. The other thing we can do is with that, we could also GPS stamp and timestamp and, start to map. So if people have symptoms, we could map where they live. Let's say as an example, if you took their address or GPS stamped where they did the test, and we could start to show on maps, where all these people with the symptoms are showing up. So, a lot of different things we can do for the COVID response. We're working very closely with our customers and our partners to get the word out and get the message out that we can help. And I think more importantly, help needs to be quick. This is not something where a customer contacts you or contacts us and says, hey, I got a 3-month window. Let me figure out how to respond to COVID. This is something where it's an immediate requirement and really needs an immediate response. And we're able to turn these things around in a lot of cases 24 hours or less. So, if you have something today that's COVID or you want to be more COVID capable or more secure in your company, one of the things that we're finding is that a lot of customers are stating legal issues when their employees come back to work. So the more things that you can do to eliminate, people having to sign things and people having to work together within the organization, the easier it's going to be to, 1, get those people back to work, 2, avoid lawsuits where people will claim, you got them sick because you didn't have proper procedures. I know in our office, we're about to put plexiglass up in front of the reception area, and we're making 1 door in and 1 door out. We're putting 6 feet signs, and, we're following our legal guidance, but we're also putting in place a number of different things with DoForms so that we could eliminate a lot of the paper handoff or that kind of thing. So just something to think about, something to tell your customers, or think about if you are a customer on the webinar. It just saves a lot of liability issues as well.
We got a couple more questions, John.
Yep. What's that?
So yes, we do. So Faye asks, can an image be inserted by the customer into the return form, for example, to confirm ID?
Absolutely.
So Faye, yes, it can be. Go ahead, John.
Yes. So you have the ability, if they're on a smart device like a tablet or a phone, they can take a picture. It'll open up the camera for them immediately and let them take a picture. We could also set it up so that it can let them look through their gallery. So you have two options: take a picture or pick a picture from the gallery. If it's on a browser, you can only upload basically a form, a picture. You can't take one because we can't assume that you have a camera on your desktop or your laptop. You also have the ability to sketch on that particular picture. So if somebody wanted to say, look, I have this legion or something, and they want to be able to take a picture of it and circle it, they can do that. We can also put pictures in advance. Like we have a lot of cases in healthcare, we'll have a picture of the body, the human body, and they'll say place an X everywhere it hurts, or something like that, and you can do that as well.
Yep. So the next question is, when a form is sent to a customer, it disappears from the mobile app, ? Until you get it back?
It disappears
so
from the mobile app, but it stays there. It never leaves. We have a housekeeping setup and a backup setup. So when your forms are submitted, it keeps a copy of that form on that mobile device for some period of time based on your rules to say either, you have the ability to say eliminate it immediately, but you also have the ability to say keep it for a day or keep it for 3 days, where a copy of that form is maintained. It's also submitted back to the portal and then sent back out, and we have all kinds of things to like lock the form and stuff like that. So it's never a situation where if you email the form and then the customer just says go to hell, now you've lost your form. You have the ability to bring that form back.
Yep, and up on the screen while John was speaking there, I just kind of brought up the mobile app and our review tab, which is basically where everything that you submitted, depending on your housekeeping settings, will be stored. So for example, if your customer never responded or, never kind of contacted you again, you'd be able to reopen this form up and send it to somebody different or kind of remove it from the process if needed.
Or comment on it that the customer refused to sign and, do what you need to do there.
Correct. And the last question I have here is, Sylvie asks, is the form example, will the form example be available in your industry template forms? It can be, Sylvie. I'm going to also throw my email address, my personal email address, into the chat window here. If anybody has, wants this specific form or kind of needs additional questions answered or anything like that, please feel free to shoot an email to me directly. I'm going to put that into the chat window right now. So everybody should be able to see that. So Sylvie, if you want to shoot me an email, I can transfer the form into your account for you. And then you can basically open it up, play around with it. If you have additional questions or anything like that, you can use me as a resource to help you out.
But even more importantly, like if you guys do need help or you have a response that you need to do very quickly or a customer that wants something, just contact us. I mean, we have no problem jumping in and helping you do this. It's not a big process to add contactless signature and payment. And you don't need to add both. You could have just payment, just signature, both. It doesn't matter. But we'd be more than happy to, help you guys get set up and going.
I think that was all the questions that I had. Oh, one more. Oh, it's from Sylvie. Okay, I got your email, Sylvie. I'll send you an email when the form has been transferred over to your account.
Yeah, and just
I'll put it into your
thing, we're going to record this. It's going to be available in our video library. We'll probably send it out to a bunch of people as well. But if for some reason you'd like this presentation given to your organization, we can definitely do another webinar, a dedicated webinar for you. So if you feel that this is something like that a lot of people in your organization should see, and you don't want to just make them watch the video, contact Anthony and we'll do another webinar for you guys. So just let us know that.
One more question here, John. Arles asks, can I define a time for a customer to answer? So if it exceeds that, they can't sign or see the form.
I mean, yes, because we can put into the form what's the current date and time, and then we can have, the date that we submitted it to them. And if it checks that and the time is greater than, a message could pop up that just says, you've exceeded the amount of time to sign this, and then they only get a button that says close. So absolutely.
Another question just came in, John. You mentioned something about a visual representation on a map when talking about COVID-19 tracking. Is there a map function somewhere within DoForms, or is that linked outside the program somewhere to Google Maps, for instance?
There is absolutely two ways to look at DoForms data on a map. In the My DoForms portal, in the View Data tab, is it View Data or Dispatch, Anthony?
Dispatch.
dispatch tab, you can see a 2D map. And everybody may not know, but we have a new product that's ready. It's released, but we just haven't totally announced it yet, called our Do Work product. And basically that's integrated Google Maps. So we now have a new back end that we can make available to people. There's certain conditions around it, but we'll be happy to talk to you about that. And it basically gives you Google Maps. It gives you satellite imagery. It can let you see, it can turn any mobile device into a GPS tracker, so you can track your people using their device as long as it has a WAN capability, wireless radio. And you can see where they started moving, where they stopped moving, what direction they're traveling in, what speed they're traveling in. And you can also see where they've received forms, where they've opened forms, where they've completed forms. And if the form's completed, you can click on it and see the form. So there's a lot of map capability. We're also adding more capability vis-a-vis maps. Like in the near future, we'll have the ability to do geofencing. So if you dispatch, let's say, something out to somebody, you'll know when they got there and when they departed that location without them having to do anything. You know, we're about to include a lot more around timesheets. So we're adding the ability for people to go on duty and off duty. We'll be able to create sophisticated electronic timesheets that'll show you everything from I started moving at 8 o'clock. I went on duty at 9 o'clock because I arrived at the headquarters. I traveled for a half an hour. I started moving again. I arrived at a customer. Here's the customer. I was there for 30 minutes. And I went on break. I went on lunch. So we'll be able to do in the very near future very sophisticated timesheets as well using the mapping engine.
Okay, Jonathan, did that answer your question? And if anybody else wants additional information or training on any of the things that we're discussing here, just feel free to shoot me an email and we'll support you as much as we can.
Yeah, so I mean, if somebody wants to get online and learn how to build it themselves, we'll show you. We can do a one-on-one. We can do another group session. We're not here to limit your ability to build forms. So we want to do everything we can to enhance your ability to either build them, or your ability to sell them, or your ability to inform other people on the capabilities that are in DoForms, so that we can, start to get customers to understand they can do some really exciting things here.